The Meaning of Life? Perspectives from Albert Camus to Viktor Frankl. What is the meaning of life? Humanity has wrestled with this question for thousands of years. From philosophers and psychologists to artists and scientists, many have sought an answer. But what if there isn't one definitive answer? Today, we'll explore the perspectives of two great thinkers, Albert Camus and Viktor Frankl. Both approached the search for meaning from vastly different contexts, developing groundbreaking ideas along the way. We'll also examine how their insights can help us discover our own sense of purpose in today's world. Camus and Existentialism, the Myth of Sisyphus. Albert Camus, one of the most prominent representatives of existentialism, delved deeply into the question of life's meaning in a seemingly meaningless world. In his famous work, The Myth of Sisyphus, he explores the absurdity of human existence. For Camus, absurdity arises from the conflict between our desire for meaning and order, and a world that doesn't fulfill this desire. However, he doesn't see this realization as a reason for despair. Quite the opposite. For Camus, the moment we accept the absurdity is the first step toward true freedom. The central metaphor in The Myth of Sisyphus is the Greek myth of Sisyphus, who was condemned by the gods to eternally roll a heavy boulder up a hill, only for it to roll back down each time. At first glance, this fate seems hopeless. But Camus offers a different interpretation. For him, Sisyphus is not a symbol of despair, but of rebellion and inner freedom. Camus writes, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Why? Because despite his fate, Sisyphus possesses the ability to choose his attitude toward it. The meaning lies not in the task itself, but in how he perceives it." But what if we view the story of Sisyphus from another perspective? Perhaps the myth shows that Sisyphus has more freedom of choice than it initially appears. Imagine if he left the stone at the base of the mountain for a while and climbed to the summit unburdened. Along the way, he could create ledges or barriers to prevent the stone from rolling all the way back down. Even though the task was imposed upon him by the gods, he retains the freedom to decide how to execute it. This perspective highlights that, despite apparent constraints, we can change the circumstances of our challenges through creative thinking and planning. It's not just about accepting the stone. It's also about how we choose to deal with it. Camus's philosophy supports this idea. For him, true freedom doesn't lie in defeating absurdity, but in working with it. Sisyphus can be seen as a symbol of the fact that, even in the most seemingly hopeless situations, we still have room for action, whether through our attitude or innovative solutions. Perhaps Camus isn't just urging us to push the stone, but also to rethink how we shape the path. An everyday example: if you find yourself stuck in a repetitive situation, whether it's an unfulfilling job or a stagnant relationship, you could adopt Sisyphus's creative mindset. Consider how you might change the situation instead of merely resigning to it. This could mean making small adjustments to your environment, trying new approaches, or even taking a break to reassess your perspective. This expanded interpretation of the myth reveals that even within seemingly meaningless routines, there is potential for change, and that we have the power to actively shape our destiny. Frankl and Logotherapy, Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl, an Austrian neurologist, psychiatrist, and Holocaust survivor, developed a profound philosophy of life known as logotherapy. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl recounts his experiences in concentration camps and how they reinforced his belief that the search for meaning plays a central role in human survival and well-being. Frankl observed that those who were able to find a sense of meaning even in the most brutal circumstances developed remarkable inner strength. They didn't give up because they clung to something greater, whether it was love for another person, a project they still wanted to accomplish, or a belief in a higher truth. For Frankl, this conviction was key. Humans are not mere victims of their circumstances. They always have the freedom to choose their attitude toward them. Logotherapy is based on the idea that humans are driven by a will to meaning. While Sigmund Freud defined humanity by its instincts and Alfred Adler by its pursuit of power, Frankl believed that the search for meaning is the deepest motivation of human existence. Even in life's darkest moments, this will to meaning can make the difference between despair and hope. Frankl emphasized that meaning is not something given to us from the outside. We must actively seek it, and often it arises precisely in difficult moments. A central concept in logotherapy is self-transcendence, the ability to rise above oneself by dedicating oneself to a task, a cause, or other people. By focusing on something greater than ourselves, we often discover profound meaning and fulfillment. One well-known example from Frankl's work is the story of a man who came to him for therapy after the death of his wife. The man was overwhelmed with grief and didn't know how to carry on. Frankl asked him, "What would have happened if you had died before your wife?" The man replied that his wife would have suffered immensely. Frankl then said, "You see, by continuing to live, you take on this suffering and spare her from it." This new perspective helped the man find meaning in his pain and gave him the strength to move forward with his life. In today's world, where many people grapple with crises of meaning, Frankl's approach holds significant relevance. He demonstrates that meaning is not found in external achievements or material possessions, but in our relationships, our work, and our capacity to view even challenging situations as opportunities for personal growth. What can we learn from Frankl? First, that suffering is often unavoidable, but it gives us the opportunity to grow internally if we face it with a positive mindset. Second, that meaning is not always obvious. Sometimes we must actively seek it. And third, that we have the freedom to preserve our dignity and humanity, even in the face of adversity. Frankl leaves us with an essential message. The meaning of life is not something we passively discover, but something we create through our choices, actions, and attitudes. No matter how challenging the circumstances, we always have the ability to shape a meaningful life. How to find your own meaning. The perspectives of Camus and Frankl offer valuable inspiration, but the critical question remains: how can we integrate these philosophical insights into our daily lives? The search for meaning is not a one-time task, but a dynamic process that accompanies us throughout life. Here are some practical approaches to help you find your path and bring deeper purpose to your life. First, it's essential to pause regularly and reflect. In the hustle and bustle of daily life, we often lose sight of what truly matters. Take intentional time to think about your values, dreams, and goals. Ask yourself, what gives my life meaning? What legacy do I want to leave in the world? These reflections can help you gain clarity and focus on what is genuinely important to you. Another step is intentional action. Big changes often start with small, consistent steps. Set achievable goals that align with your values and work systematically toward them. Whether it's learning a new skill, strengthening a relationship, or contributing to your community, every deliberate action brings you closer to your sense of purpose. Camus also teaches us to embrace the inexplicable. Not everything in life is logical or controllable, and that's okay. Find joy in small moments, a sunrise, a smile, or a fulfilling task. These seemingly mundane instances often carry more meaning than we initially realize. Finally, we must learn to cope with suffering. Frankl reminds us that difficult situations are inevitable, but they don't have to be meaningless. Sometimes, meaning lies in how we respond to challenges. Instead of shying away from suffering, we can see it as an opportunity for growth. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? How can it make me stronger or wiser? The search for meaning requires courage and perseverance, but it rewards us with a life rich in depth and fulfillment. By focusing on what truly moves us, we not only discover our own sense of purpose, but also create a positive impact on those around us. It's a journey that looks different for everyone, yet the first step is always the same: to take that first step forward. Your journey starts here. Now it's your turn. Which of these two approaches, the rebellious acceptance of Camus or the meaning-driven perspective of Frankl, resonates more with you? Take a few minutes to reflect. What are your values? What gives your life meaning? Write down your thoughts and feel free to share them in the comments. This could be the first step toward discovering your own sense of purpose or inspiring others with your perspective. Remember, the meaning of life doesn't always have to be grand or extraordinary. Often it's found in the small, everyday moments: a smile, a meaningful conversation, or the joy of a fulfilling task. The journey to a meaningful life begins right here, in these mindful moments. If you enjoyed this audiobook, subscribe to our channel so you won't miss future audiobooks on philosophy and practical approaches to finding meaning. Together, we can explore more inspiring ideas and seek answers that help us grow. Up next is a mini-series on the teachings and thoughts of Seneca, a great thinker and statesman from ancient Rome. Here's the link to the first part. Until next time, stay curious and courageous on your journey.